Our very last post game pod of the season. Don't cry, man. We're okay. Hold back them tears.
120 to 95. But hey, man, we got to see a hell of a game. 3.5 quarters of really back and forth basketball. Um, but this game for me, will be forever remembered as the game where Shea got his face fucking busted, bro.
For
Holy
real,
shit.
dude. That was rough, man. I'll be honest with you, that was rough. Yeah, anytime you see Shea get his face busted like that and then all of a sudden it swells up like that and to the point where it's closing, you don't want to see that. But he was still out there. He was only gone for like a minute, I want to say.
It's
So it
crazy.
was
They
crazy. He got hit.
super glue that shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. But that's what we want to see from these guys is the fight. The I'm not going to give up. And tonight, unfortunately, we ran into what I would consider the two biggest issues of the night. The first biggest issue, in my opinion, was the 17 turnovers. In a playoff game, a do or die playoff game, 17 turnovers is not a good stat. The other thing that just was not unacceptable, in my opinion, completely unacceptable, is we shot 36% from field goal range, guys. And no way, in no shape, is that acceptable of winning a game. The fact that we were only down by, 25 points is a miracle because we should have been down by 40. That was, I just, it's mind boggling that we had so many shots that went in and out or halfway down. And it was crazy to me, man. And that's nothing. This is not a knock against the guys. This is just a unfortunate series of events where we couldn't get a shot to go in the hole. And that's just sucks. How many and ones that went around in and out? It's just like, it was just dumb. Like I can't even say there's one individual thing except for it just wasn't our night. Nothing went in, and it was complete opposite for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, they had it going. They had the crowd behind them, and your home arena. You're gonna have the fans are gonna really ignite the role players, which worked. I mean, they had that going for them. Now let's talk about what they did defensively against Shea or against our whole team. That was quite different because what Shea 22 points, Dort 17, J Dub 17, Giddy with 6, and
Hmm.
J Will 8. I mean, basically they really were able to limit our offense. They took Shea out of his action early, and what they did was something unique that no other team in the NBA can really do. They put Nikhil Alexander Walker on him, and he's his cousin,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got great length, and he really challenged him. But they didn't really send him a lot of help.
Mm-mm.
And then when they did send help, it was only when Shea. It was late in the possession. Shea had picked up the ball. He was going to try to shoot. So very difficult times to pass. They really stayed home and they tried to make the other guys beat them, but other guys, play from advantage spots. So like as we saw the Pelicans, those other guys were always playing from advantage. So
Mm.
it just felt like the Timberwolves were ready to take on each individual player on their own, and then send a crowd towards Shea when he had committed to shooting.
Yeah, and again, that was a hell of a job on the coaching for defense right there. We saw last game of the Pelicans did the same thing to Shea. They threw different things at Shea. This is only going to make Shea want to get better because he's going to look at the last. I would say he's going to look at four or two of the last four halves that he played as not good. It's just going to be what Shea's going to look at, and he's going to look at that saying this is unacceptable in my book, and it's going to push him to get better. And where we're going to be at in the draft and all that stuff is, we're standing, I think, 11th place right now. And that's good because we're going to need the help. We're going to need the help for next year or the year after when this player is going to actually be getting to that point. He's providing for this team. But this team is really pushing for something special. And next year, and I don't want to say really get too much into what's going to happen next year, but we saw Shea step up this year in a big way. We saw Josh step up in a big way. And those guys and Dort had another phenomenal defensive season. Putting those guys together with the improvements that we know that this team can do already, if we just take Josh's improvement and we take J.R. Reeves and all these guys that are second year improvements, right, and we compare them to these guys that are coming in that just finished their first year, we know how far these guys are going to get, how good these guys should get, a projection of where these guys should be at. And I'm telling you guys, J Dub is going to be special. And what he did tonight was just spectacular. It was just a very quiet game for him, but he put up a lot of points in the aspect of, I think, 17, and he hit two threes at the end of the game to keep us within like spitting range. It was just a good job by J Dub.
J Dub had he was a big part of a good run we had, but then he had some issue. I think maybe a cramp or a sprained ankle. But early on, I think or late in the second quarter, he was pretty much the only thing we had going for us. And when he went to the bench, we really our offense dried up. I think he had 14 or 15 in the first half. So it was a really good game for J Dub. I would have liked to seen him continue that, but obviously, I have to wonder how much this travel schedule, this Pelicans game, being 2 days ago, how much that affected them at this stage of the season. And irregardless, you saw Shea like just physically, like his eye was swollen shut by the end of the game, so he wasn't even able to be at his best. But I wonder for like Giddy, for J Dub, for J Will, for all the guys, how much they're gonna like look into themselves going into this offseason and be like, I have to like take it to another level if I'm gonna be at my best, to be able to help Shea out at the end of the season.
I agree. I think again, it's all about the professional habits that are being taught inside the Oklahoma City Thunder locker room and the coaches, and all the way through the system. You're going to see these guys all step up when they need to step up. Let's just be honest. There's going to be a different team that comes out the beginning of next year. And what did we start the season off? Like really horrible, I think. Like 2-10 or something like that, right?
It was pretty slow.
Yeah, so or 2-8, whatever it was. But um to me, I'm looking at that and I'm seeing what this team is more capable of doing. And if you take out those 10 games, right, and you just put it what we averaged out, essentially 5-5, we're in a different spot. Where do we make? We make what, top six in that? Like that's the difference right there, guys. 3 games is the difference between us making a top six and not. And I don't know, man. I guess that's where I'm just grateful. I'm pumped that we have an opportunity to be here. I'm pumped that we had an opportunity to watch this team put 40 wins on the board when nobody else thought that they were going to be able to do that. I mean, it's just spectacular, man. 40 wins, and it's just, man, I'm proud of them. We've been lucky enough to watch every single game, and especially since the All Star break, we've watched every single game together with you guys. It's just been amazing.
Yeah, so our chat was blowing up. Everybody wanted to talk about what we might do for the draft, what we might do to bring in a new player. You know, we have a long off season to talk about, and it's pretty fast to already be talking about it. But we do want to talk about it with this draft pick coming up. Talk about the type of pieces that we can fit in there. Do you have anything you want to say in that direction?
No, I think if everything is hearing, or if everything is right from what I'm hearing, it's we're going to continue growing this team the way we have. It's going to be versatile players. It's going to be players that can play multiple positions. It's going to be tall, lanky guys. I mean, that's what we're looking for, guys. I mean, who else is Sam picked in the last 2 drafts that would indicate that we're looking for somebody else? So second round, I think will be the similar to the same. But the reality is that this team, it's not about taking a massive step forward right now. It's about taking baby steps right now and getting to the season and realizing and looking back and saying, "Oh yeah, that's how much I've grown. That's how much better I've gotten. That's how much weight I put on in muscle." Like that's what this is all about: is step by step and getting to the end of the season and then putting it all together again. Because this next year, man, we're not going to be sitting in this position saying, "Damn, I hope we get this next win." We're not going to be putting in this position. We're going to be waiting for everybody to be done so we can get the ball rolling and we can get, going in the real playoff game, the 7-game series. Because this is a top 4 team in the West next year. This just is.
There you go. So we add Chet to the lineup, right? And we already heard Sam Presti talking about like being hesitant to adding any pieces until he really gets a chance to see what Chet in this group looks like, and then maybe helping figure out who to add after that. So I don't really think that like adding an outside piece is the long term, but that's what I say. I say that all the time, every time this comes up. But my point, I guess, comes to that really, Presti's not going to really do anything until we see what this team looks like with Chet anyway.
Yeah.
So I think what I look at for coming up is really the key point if you want to circle what we're gonna do to look different other than adding Chet and getting Kenny Hustle back, and then adding maybe another pickup like Isaiah Joe or something is that 11th pick.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to dig
Well,
into
and think
coming
about
up.
how many players are going to not be on this team from this
We
team
don't know what
already.
pick number it is. It's just the lottery, But
Yeah,
go
but
ahead.
it's well, I think it's the 11th pick. It's 11th or 12th.
Well, that's our lottery position right now. We'll see what
Yeah, that's
happens.
true. Um, I forgot what I was saying with other stuff, but man, again,
How many players will be on the team next year?
oh yeah, yeah. All right, so think about this. How many of the guys that are we thinking that won't be on the team for next year? There's only one that comes to my mind, and that's Dario. And I get it. A lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're taking another power forward center off our team." Yeah, I understand. I understand. But we've got one spot open, guaranteed open, right? And then I think because Lindy Waters has proven he's going to continue having that spot. And then I think we're going to have, two or maybe even one second rounder that's going to be a two-way player essentially. And we're just going to start that farm system that way. So it's not going to necessarily be about adding a bunch of players. It's going to be adding one player in the draft this year. We might even trade a couple of our draft picks to move up in the draft pick for next year, you know, because that Houston pick that's top 4 protected is looking incredibly valuable right now. So we have a bunch of assets, and I'm not putting it out that this team doesn't somehow surprise people and jump a lot of spots.
Yeah.
Just saying. I mean, this draft could be end up being one of those drafts where a team, from 8 to 12 jumps everybody else.
So setting that aside and assuming that whatever player we add might be maybe as good somehow potentially as J Dub, I don't know how, but if something like that happened, like still, I think the biggest opportunity for this team to improve is for these guys to hit the gym over the summer.
Hmm.
Like, where do you think J Dub can come back next year compared to where he was at the start of this year?
All right, so J Dub is like 6'6", something like that. I think he's 195 is what his stuff says. For me, I'm looking at adding 5 to 10 pounds in muscle for J Dub. I mean, listen, he might be able to be one of those freaks and put on like 15 pounds in muscle and come back a completely different player. But he is 22. Happy birthday, J Dub. Today was his birthday. But that's where I keep going back to is that like maybe with J Dub is that we're looking at a player that could come back at the benchmark at 205 and 6'6". I mean that those are elite numbers, especially with the ability that he has. Uh, I think that's completely plausible. I think that's something that could be done.
Yeah, and I think I've heard Shea say he likes to come back a better player. Is there any spot specifically you think that he'll
Yeah,
come back a better
absolutely,
player?
man. Finishing consistently at that hole. Yeah, he already finishes consistently, but if you look at um, what he's doing in the paint, right? There's how many times you say, "Oh, that was so close to being an and one. That was so close to being a sick and amazing shot," right? Those are the shots that you're going to see improvements on this offseason. You're going to see his and one rates go up. You're going to see his, there's not going to be many more of those shit that almost went in. Holy cow, that would have been crazy. That's where we're going to see the improvement on Shea because to me, I there's very few players in the NBA that have ever scored, especially in the modern day, averaging 35 or 34 to 36 points in the season. And Shea's one of those guys that I think has that ability because there's so many times that it's almost there, it's almost there, it's almost there, and just something happens. Think about how many times he got his season high or his career high in a row. Like he got like 35 points, got 35 points, got 35 points, and then all of a sudden he finally goes for 40. Then he goes back, that's what Shea does. Because when he figures out in those shots that go in that his 3-point shot gets better, like he doesn't need to shoot his three. He can dominate by just going to the hole, and he talks about that. I don't need to dominate. I don't need to shoot threes. I just dominate by going to the hole and taking advantage of whoever's guarding me.
All right. One more question, and then
All
we'll
right.
jump back over to the chat, catch up with everybody. But Josh Giddey, tell me what he needs to do or what he not he needs to do, but what you think he might target?
Josh Giddey he has to put on some extra weight. He's got to. And the reason is because he's going to be forced to play a lot of that power forward, small forward position. 6'9", 220 is what he needs to be at. I think he's six. Well, they say he's 6'8", 216. So I think he's 6'9", and let's just say 225 is where he needs to be at. All right, he needs to put some weight on, and the reason is because he takes so much contact getting to the hole. He's not a big jumper, so adding some weight isn't going to affect his jumping that much. So to me, it's about getting that body mass and getting out there. And obviously, his 3-point shot this year has increased a ton, and I've been really proud of the way that Coach England has really worked with him and consistently worked with him, because it's a 6-point change. It's went from 26 to 32%. If he gets another 4% there, that's where the range that he needs to be at, that 36 to 40% range for 3-point range. So Josh will get there. I'm not too worried about that. But to me, he's got to put a little bit of extra weight on, and that way he can take the pounding. He can take the physical contact like they were giving him today and finish through it. So Josh is right there. I mean, the fact is that we're talking about a few things in his game, and he's going to be dominating, and that's it.
Man, I could go on for another half hour talking about how much I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to listen, to watch, to join us, to comment, to say what's up. It's been an amazing year.
Really has, man.
So we appreciate you guys, and we hope that you'll join us for another game next year. And we're really, really hoping that the playoff run is just a little bit longer. And if we can get a little bit longer each year, you never know where that will lead us. But
Mm-mm.
we obviously have let the NBA know that we mean business. And bro, this game was pretty fucking fun. Even though we didn't get the win, even though we were getting blown out at the end, the fact that we had the game, it was not a given. It was earned.
That's it, man. And it's just one of those things where at the end of the game it wasn't what we wanted to see, but the team gave us so much to cheer for this year. They put so much on the line, and unfortunately, this just wasn't the way we wanted to go. We only scored 95 points, which is so low for this team. And like, we still fought. Our players went out there and gave it their all, and that's all we could ask for at the end of the game. Leave it all on the floor. If that means that you lose and there's nothing left in your tank, then that's what that means. And unfortunately, that's what happened tonight. We ran out of everything.
Absolutely, man. It was the Warrior game for Shea.
Mm.
When he came back and he checked in, wanted, but it felt like these guys really learned something about their leader. So, as Dave likes to say, tell somebody you love them, tell somebody to fuck off.